Hey guys, welcome back to the Will Be Expletives. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And this week's episode right here is a full-on spoilers review of the season finale of Season 6 of The Walking Dead. So we are going to be talking about, everything that's come beforehand. If you have not watched the finale, do not listen to this because we are going to spoil the ever-living shit out of it. Not that there's really anything to spoil in the finale, but we'll get to that in a bit. But you've been warned. This is also a completely unstructured review. Typically, I run notes to kind of keep us on track a little bit. Meh. This is totally freeballed because Walking Dead says fuck it, so we say fuck it. So, okay. Why don't we start off with some positive takeaways? What were some things you liked outside of the ending that we'll get into, in a few minutes? That's the big discussion point.
Strictly finale?
Strictly finale.
Eugene was pretty good.
Okay. We'll organically throughout the thing kind of mention stuff from this season, probably particularly the second half of the season, because the way Walking Dead kind of works now is they don't really have like season 6. They have season 6A and 6B. They're basically two individual mini seasons. The way they've kind of structured it. So I think everything they've done with Eugene in the second half of the season has been gold.
Yes. Some
of my absolute favorite scenes have been between Abraham and Eugene.
Yeah.
I love their dynamic. They're like the ultimate bromance. That scene when fucking... best scene in the finale, I think, was Eugene going in the RV. I loved that scene. That was fucking awesome.
And the conversation they have beforehand.
It's a little bromance, tear welling up in the corner of Jeff's eye a little bit. Like they have a really cool dynamic because when you think back, just like the last couple of seasons, like you think back to when Abraham finds out that Eugene don't know
nearly
shit,
beats him to death,
almost kills him.
Yeah,
and then to see them now, that's some awesome character development. I like that Eugene has been developed into a worthwhile character.
What about you've outlived your usefulness to me?
Yeah.
Like,
that's heavy.
I was
heavy
like,
shit.
dude.
That's brutal. But the Eugene in the show is actually better than the comic version, which is that's a testament because the Walking Dead comic is, to me, just for how it's not as good as it used to be, but just for it to still be as good as it is at issue 153 or 154 is the brand new one I haven't gotten to read yet. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So for them to be able to do some things better than the comic is great. Pretty much the performances across the board were all really good, I thought. My issues with the finale really have nothing to do with any actors. It's purely behind the scenes writers and stuff like that. I watched it with the benefit of not having commercials.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people are complaining about just how prevalent the commercials were because in order to play the last 20 minutes basically continuously, they front-loaded the commercial breaks.
Yes.
So it was apparently pretty painful to watch if you watched it live or, with the commercials and stuff in another format.
I watched it recorded, so I just fast-forwarded my DVR.
Apparently, if you're watching it live, the commercials were painful, but I got to watch it without commercials, so I actually thought the pacing ramped up pretty nicely. Mm-hmm. I was actually really tense for pretty much the whole episode. I thought the main villain of the episode being GPS, or lack thereof, ended up being a little ridiculous, but... Yeah. I actually thought the not necessarily the pacing, but the sense of dread, I actually thought was pretty damn good and well done throughout the episode. What were some of the things that stuck out in your mind? Not a good sign when we're struggling.
It's really not.
It's not a good... Especially... Okay. Should not have been 90 minutes long.
No.
Which is becoming a huge fucking problem with them in both their Walking Dead shows. The only reason these things have been 90 minutes long is for AMC to make more money off the commercials.
Yes.
If that is the
only... They know you're going to watch.
If that is the only reason for that, you are hamstringing everyone involved in the production.
Yeah. I actually like the Carol and Morgan stuff going on right now.
I liked the resolution to it. I hate the subplot of what they've done to Carol. I will say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I like the fact that it's Morgan chasing after her.
I dislike what they did to Carol to get to that point, but I love that Morgan scene when he gives him an opportunity stop.
Yes.
Walk away. And he's like, no. And Morgan finally goes fucking Punisher mode. And then
he clears him. He clears his ass.
Well, that actor is fantastic.
Yes.
Because as the look...
He's another person that can say everything he needs to say without saying a word.
I was just about to his reaction without saying a word to having to pull that trigger to kill that guy was great, because he actually takes a step forward to go help Carol and stops for a second and almost like the look on his face is like, oh my god, I just did that.
Yeah.
And the actor was great. The Carol actress is just incredible at what she's been able to do with the writing team of developing that character. That's probably my biggest issue with this second half of the season.
Just out of nowhere.
They out of nowhere, and for no reason.
It happened in the middle of one episode, just like a light switch.
And her character, the coolest thing about her character, and why going into the second half of the season, I've always said my favorite character is Rick. That's partial bias just because of the comic, but my second favorite character is Carol.
Yeah.
I've always loved because like her character development in that show is the equivalent of how good Breaking Bad's was. Mm-hmm. What they brought, they build her up in from season 1 to the first half of season 5 was genius. She is in the first half of this season when she's going through Alexandria in full Punisher mode is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
She's a great character. And then for them to just, like you said, at the drop of a dime, fundamentally break her character down.
I don't know what the fuck happened.
I mean, at that point, you have done your job. Her character developed into something amazing over the course of years. So for you to, for no reason, backtrack 3 seasons, it's stupid.
In a single scene, when she starts hyperventilating, when she's gagged,
and you don't even really know why. You still don't.
Yeah, I mean, that episode started out with her tallying up the number of people that she's killed so far, which seemed like a really low number, by the way, 18.
Should be 1,800 after Alexandria
and Terminus.
But she's the only reason any of them were fucking alive.
Yeah,
is because she murders half of Terminus.
She went in and Rambo'd Terminus.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just pure stupidity. Okay, here's another thing, too.
She's backtracked to season 1 almost. She's completely worthless.
If they... to get any reasoning for her character development backing up the way it has, you have to bridge the gap as a viewer. You get, like... If they had full-on explained, she is doing this because Rick explained to her that what got that whole family killed basically was that kid freaking out. If they have kind of her realize, like, oh my god, that scene, the cookie scene, when she's in the kitchen with that kid, she indirectly, along with Rick, ended up getting a whole family killed.
Yeah.
But I have to bridge the gap to make that
connection.
Is
that what did it? Because I never made that connection.
I think, because if you remember, I think it was the episode before she snaps... when that episode when her and Maggie are the main protagonists, I think it ended, or the last thing you see her is she brings a single cookie to the grave of the kid.
Yes.
I shouldn't have to bridge those gaps, and you shouldn't have missed it. Like, it should have been prevalent.
Because when she does that, is when Morgan comes up behind her and they have that conversation like they do the thing in The Walking Dead that they always do where the two characters are talking but they never look at each other.
That's a good point.
Like,
if you made that part of the drinking game, you'd be fucking dead.
Right. You'd be the drinking dead. But she never turns around her face and she just keeps staring at the grave. You don't know that at the time though. But I think he says something like, how many more lives or whatever do you have to take before you realize life is precious, kind of thing. And then when she walks away, it pans down and you see the cookie on the grave. And then later it shows her like tallying up how many people she's killed. Yeah, you shouldn't have to bridge that gap yourself. That should have been made more prevalent. When she is, and then when the pregnant lady is tied up, she just starts hyperventilating out of nowhere, and she pulls out a cross and all that.
You want to know?
When she pulled out the cross, I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
I thought She was faking it
That's
to
what I
make them
thought,
underestimate her, so that towards the end of the episode,
because she's done that before.
Yes,
she did that when they first got to Alexandria. She played the little like Sunday school teacher act.
Exactly.
And no, it was for real.
And that was written poorly too, because we both made that connection. To me, that was the obvious thing they were going for, and then they kind of pull the rug out from under you, because you're just like, wait. She's not faking.
Yeah. Like, my reaction was Maggie's, because the look Maggie gives her when she starts hyperventilating is just like, what the fuck?
That is, and we're going to get into the biggest case of this, but this show has made a pattern out of pulling the rug out from under the viewer, not in a clever way.
Yeah.
In a horseshit, we have backtracked into TV 20 years ago writing.
Here's the thing. I like the idea of the conflicted Carol, like when she went RoboCop and all the guys in the truck. I like that idea, but I don't like backtracking 3 seasons in one episode to get there. If she had been that way, because, you said Carol's your second favorite character, but we've talked before. Remember how I said that I don't like Carol just because she just out of nowhere became murder machine, and everybody has to die, and she's basically 2 steps away from being Morgan with clearing everything and everybody, and it just, I don't know. I've never really liked her character dynamic in the last couple seasons, but this Carol, I would have fucking loved if I had this, but I don't like it because I got her in the course of a single fucking episode out of nowhere.
What this would have been is her whole arc of retreading would have been great if it had been the focus of the first episode coming back after the family had gotten killed.
Yes.
Maybe half of like the second episode.
If it had been a subplot,
it needed to be a subplot, a mini subplot that got wrapped up quicker, not spun out over the course of 8 episodes. It had a really, really cool Morgan development, but it was at the cost of Carol's entire character development from 4 or 5 seasons worth. That was just idiotic. Like, you can't defense that if you're the writers. This is bad.
And I did like the black and white between Carol and Morgan too, because she is basically kill everyone, and he is all life is precious. And I like that they had that struggle between them, but then now it's like at the same time both of the characters are becoming gray again. Because Morgan is killed again, and she's afraid to kill.
That moment when he saves her, I think, is the click to where they're both on the same page.
Yeah,
life is precious, and that's why you have to kill people to save your family.
South Park did that same thing in 20 minutes, though. I don't understand why. Just all of a sudden we had to drag it out the way we did. If that's all we wanted to say,
that is the biggest problem with the show. Is so concerned, I think, with dragging this monstrosity of a show, ratings-wise, out as long as possible. They are hamstringing everyone involved. Because when you think about it, right now, this last season we just watched was season 6.
Yeah.
For the last 3 or 4 years, they've been running 16-episode-long seasons. So, the example I always make of perfect structure as far as telling your story as succinctly and as impactful as you possibly can, and getting out as quickly as possible while still having time to develop everything is Breaking Bad. How many more episodes are we past the runtime of Breaking Bad, I wonder? Just how many episodes total in comparison?
Yeah.
And there's no ending in sight still. That's a problem.
That bothers me.
TV cannot go on fundamentally forever.
Because one of the things that made Breaking Bad so legendary is that when it was over, it was fucking over, and you're like, no, I don't want it to be over. But that's one of the things that just made it so amazing. They knew what they wanted to do. They came in, they did it, and it was done. And because of that, it didn't overstay its welcome, and you could watch it again and again and again and again. Now, Walking Dead, as much as I love this show, it's mostly love that I have for it from the first several seasons.
It's your love for it as a whole, not like
yes.
at the current moment.
Yes, and I feel like it's time to start ramping down and give it an ending. But it's like you said, it's such a behemoth ratings wise.
And you know what's funny too? is I have a little bit more insight to it just from being a reader of the comics. I'm basically current with the comic. Robert Kirkman has told them, I don't know if you knew this, do you know how R.R. Martin has told the Game of Thrones dudes the ending?
Yeah.
And they have a general idea of how to make it different a little bit, but still kind of get the broad strokes of his idea for the ending. Robert Kirkman hasn't told them shit. I think that's kind of awesome.
Really?
He has not told them the ending, and he has told them, I'm not finishing the comic until after you guys.
Really?
Because he is adamant about his baby ending the way
he wants it
to, and for them to not be able to kind of fuck him over in the process.
Yeah.
And first of all, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome because
that's brilliant.
This TV show, becoming what it has become, has paid specifically for all of his kids' college's tuition, you know? Like, this show has made him as famous as he is, and for him to still have the cojones to be like, no, fuck you, this is my baby. That's awesome.
Yeah. You're not taking this from me.
I love that about him, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword for us as fans of this TV show.
Because they don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do. They don't know they don't know when to end. The network doesn't want them to end. And why don't we real quickly talk about the first half of this season compared to the second half of the season overall? Because I think it's kind of interesting.
Because that is a complete contrast.
You had the first half of the season as your number one TV show of last year when we did our year-end rankings.
Yes.
I had it as an honorable mention. I liked how I loved the first 3 episodes, and I didn't like how it felt uneven.
See, you always tell me to be more optimistic. I was fucking optimistic, and look what happened.
this is what happens, Larry.
Because it's probably it might make it to my honorable mentions for this year.
I don't think it'll be on mine.
Yeah.
Well,
it might.
The one we'll be ranking is the first half of next season because that is the 2016 season. This isn't technically. This is still last season, but I actually. Okay, let's backtrack it to you. What did you like so much about the first half that made you dislike the second half? Because it was a pretty for you to go from number 1 to honorable mentions, like were you in territory
to maybe honorable mentions.
Yeah, that's a huge why don't you compare your thoughts on the first half to the second half?
The first half of the season, well, I mean, one of my absolute favorite things was one of your absolute favorite things, which was the first 3 episodes.
Best zombie movie I've ever seen.
Yes.
Is that first 3 episode chunk.
Yes. And to have the balls to have a premiere that usually rivals your finale was pretty awesome, I thought. And some of the episodes that happened after that, actually a lot of the episodes, in my opinion, that happened after that, and this is where you and I differ. Right, the writing style and pacing, I thought, was pretty good. And if they had kept that steam going, it could have easily ramped up to be a completely batshit finale to the season. And, not just the finale, but the last several episodes of the season could have been just absolutely crazy and could have been some of the best episodes they've done, especially with what character they were bringing in. And, to me, in my head, I could just see where it was going to go, and I was just all pumped for it and all excited for it. And then I got there, and it was just meh.
My thing, actually, I was, which was actually one of, the most interesting things about our rankings, was just how down on it and how high you were on the first half, because usually you and me with Walking Dead are pretty, on point.
Here's my thing, ever since the prison stuff, which season was that? 4?
4.
Ever since then, it's been kind of slowly dredging downhill for me, and it's just been getting less interesting. As far as
like
I'm
you were saying,
concerned.
they're dragging out every little goddamn thing they can.
Yes, and and I compare everything to season 2 because that's my favorite season.
My favorite, I think, was probably 4.
Yeah, that's where it started going down for me, but it was just the first half of this season was completely night and day from the other seasons. What
I didn't like about the first half was, and I talked to you before, love the first 3. I actually really liked the Morgan origin, which pissed everyone off because they did that Scott Gimple thing of, oh, is Glenn alive or is Glenn dead?
We
Boom!
don't know.
Morgan origin. You all wanted your Morgan origin right now, didn't you?
Yeah.
Fucking with the fans.
And they even took Steve Young's name off of the opening credits for that episode.
Suck my balls, Scott Gimple. That's going to be a running theme in a few minutes. But I actually really liked that Morgan episode, and at that point, that was clever. That was pulling the rug out from under the audience in a pretty clever way, I thought. It was a good episode.
And the other thing that was clever about that episode, having it an hour and a half and having everyone hear next week's is an hour and a half, and knowing that Glenn's a cliffhanger and stuff. Yeah.
At that point, I'm still totally on board with Scott Gimple. But we were talking after the Morgan episode, and until they get to the point to where, which was the cliffhanger of the mid-season finale when they walk out covered in the zombie gore.
Yeah.
Other than Aaron talking to Maggie in the sewer, I can't remember a goddamn thing that happened in the second half of the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm. See, and I actually really liked that episode too, the mid-season finale. I actually really liked that, and some of the episodes that led up to it.
But it's just like what happened?
At that point, it was still supporting my, oh, dude, the second half of the season is going to be amazing.
So I actually... It's tough because I think that first 3 episode chunk of the first half of the season, the very beginning of season 6 was actually probably the best the show has ever been or ever will be. Mm-hmm. But from episode to episode, just because of I can't remember anything that happened after that Morgan episode, like I think overall, actually, the second half of the season kept my interest more. Because if you think about it, the episode that they brought back was awesome. Like you had the RPG scene. You actually had them actually finally walking through.
You had the Tarantino scene too,
showing them all shoot everything. That was awesome. Yeah. You actually had the scene where they just start. They killed off a lot of children. That was a plus because everyone under the age of 17 in this show, I want to strangle myself. Like they're awful.
Yeah. You just want to go Anakin Skywalker.
I really do. Yeah. If we ever needed Hayden Christensen to come out of retirement, it was on The Walking Dead. But yeah, I loved the episode with Jesus and Rick and Daryl out in the road.
Oh, that episode was amazing.
I loved that one.
The Law of Averages.
I loved
Law of Averages is bullshit, man.
One of the other episodes where they raid the compound was really intense. Had great action and character moments. Like when you think about it,
like Glenn,
they almost did the same thing the first half of the season did. They're doing a lot of interesting stuff that's ramping up. Yeah. And then when we get to these last like 2 episodes, two and a half episodes, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
Like what? Oh, we're talking about pulling fucking the rug out from under the audience for no reason. That Daryl thing. What? Fuck you, Scott Gimple. We know Daryl's not going to get shot and killed in the penultimate episode. Why even do that?
I don't know. I mean, at a certain level, I'm ready for something to happen to some of the season 1 characters, just because they're the ones that's always safe. Because like Game of Thrones, as soon as you think someone's safe, they fucking die horribly, right? And while I don't want these characters to die, you can't keep not killing them. You know what I mean?
You cannot continue to make a pattern out of just fucking with the fans and viewers for the sake of fucking with the viewers.
And here's one thing that, like, I was still in denial at this point, but I was just like, really, what the hell? So we had Glenn's death teased, then we had it teased again, a second time.
What was the second time?
Do you remember that? When he was on the ground trying to get to Maggie.
Oh, okay, yeah. We're going to start talking about the final scene now. Yeah.
What?
Are you talking about the Negan thing?
No.
Oh, okay. What scene are you talking about?
I'm talking about when he's trying to get back into Alexandria, trying to get to Maggie, and he's up against the wall, and all the walkers like
and Abraham saves him,
and Abraham saves him, and it's just like, really? I mean, I've already had his death teased.
This show is the equivalent of cinematic blue balls. Like, that is exactly what it is.
That should be the blurb on the box for season 6.
Quote me. Quote me. Yeah, I actually completely forgot about that because I thought the same thing. Because I was like, oh, so do we tease it to actually... If they had just straight up murdered him then, to save Maggie would have been a beautiful yet dark, total Walking Dead moment.
Yeah.
And he blue balls you again.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now we're getting into talking about the ending. So we have this finale that is ramped up pretty geniusly about setting up dread, because they start going into trail after trail on the little highway sections and getting blocked off and turned around.
Yeah.
And the first time that happens, it's really cool. It's really tense.
But by the fifth or sixth
by the
time,
by the eighth time, you're just like, the real thing that's going to get all these people killed is the lack of GPS, not Negan.
yeah.
The one cool thing though is when they turn that one corner and they're piled up like Mad Max style. That was pretty cool.
That was neat.
If this episode had been 45 minutes long, like it fucking should have been.
Yes.
And we had half as many roadblocks, and that was the last one, that would have been fucking awesome.
Yeah.
They completely cheapened that moment by having 3,000 roadblocks.
Dude, I rolled my eyes so many times in that finale. That finale, to me, was middle of A or B part at best. It was not mid-season finale level at all. It was not, definitely sure as hell wasn't season finale level.
If the episode, I think the episode being,
it was like episode 4 level, you know?
If the episode had been 45 minutes long, I think it would have made a world of difference.
Yeah.
Because if the pacing was this, and we have one roadblock,
the pacing was 55 miles an hour in an RV down the road. That was the pacing.
If the pacing had been this, if the episode was 45 minutes long, let's say, or 42, whatever, and we had the first like 5 minutes of them getting on the road, and we had the first roadblock with the dude from Saul, the GTA 5 dude, that actor, and then the second roadblock was them piled up Mad Max style, and then right after that, Negan. It would have been a completely different monster, I think.
Instead of some of the roadblocks, give me what the fuck happened with Eugene in the RV. Don't just have him show up on his knees.
Like that was really awkwardly edited me.
Yeah.
Because they had that beautiful moment.
Because when it showed them come in, the RV's in the background. I'm like, is that the same RV? And then next thing you know, there's Eugene all beat up.
Or what would have added to more, we actually had shit actually happen in our finale. What would have been really cool is if instead of Eugene being marched out beaten up, when Negan exits the truck thing he was in, he's holding Eugene's head and throws it at their feet.
He was in their RV, wasn't he?
I don't remember.
He was in a RV.
He was in. I don't think he was in theirs, but he was in. If he walked out and rolled Eugene's head to Rick, and that's his first thing he does, you'd be like, Jesus fuck.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, the thing that pisses me off so much about this episode.
Okay, here we go, people. Here it comes.
This episode, the roadblocks are bullshit, but because of that Mad Max type scene, they did, to me, create a sense of dread, because I have been waiting for this Negan reveal. And I need to give a little bit of background on it, I think, because I'm a comic reader. This issue that... Do you remember a few weeks ago I've been telling you I know what the ending's going to be, I'm pretty sure?
Yeah.
This is what I've been waiting for the whole season, was this scene. So that issue came out 2012. I've been waiting for this moment to happen and see how they do it for 4 years.
Okay.
People that have been watching the show are pissed about what happened because they got teased about this Negan stuff for, 8 episodes?
Something like
Comic viewers, 4 years of build-up. That's a kick in the balls to comic.
Kick in the blue balls?
To your most hardcore fans.
Yeah.
It's a slap in the face. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan comes out, and just looking at him is just incredible. Like I
was going to say, it's no fault to Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
The design on him, his costume and everything is straight off the page. It's beautifully adapted. He without even saying a word, he has the charisma of Negan and the presence.
I was going to say, and the presence was a big deal.
And then this is his first time being the character. He's instantly got it. He's instantly like, I'm thinking I'm reading the comic. He's so good.
I don't know if he is or not, but he came across as someone who is a fan of the comics playing a role, because usually that comes through when they act.
His performance is just, and I don't throw this word around often, truly epic. Just as far as him walking out of that RV and knowing that character immediately and being that fucking good. And his monologue is just creating tension.
His monologue was pretty fantastic.
His monologue is gold. They're having to adapt him without him cursing, which is very important because one of the biggest things about the comic character...
He's basically Sid from Final Fantasy VII, isn't he?
He says fuck just about every other word.
Yeah.
And for them to adapt that and remove that portion of it, and then still have the essence of the character down.
When he's standing there, here's the best part about Jeffrey Dean Morgan being Negan too, is his delivery of the you killed some of my men, so I sent some of my men to kill your men, and then you killed the men that I sent to kill your men for killing my men.
And you killed more of my men.
You killed more of my men, so now we have a problem. Like, the fact that it was comical and oh fuck moment at the same time. It was just genius.
Because of how long I've been waiting for this moment, and for how awesome Jeffrey Dean Morgan was, that for the takeaway from this moment being who is dead and not about his performance, to me is a fucking travesty.
Yeah.
Because what this should have been is, instead of another fucking case of blue balls, which is what the show is now, is just
walking blue balls.
It's cheap shot after cheap shot. It's pulling the rug out from under you as many times as possible. And they built the tension so well throughout his dialogue, throughout to what was building up, for them to pull another cheap shot like we're back in the 80s writing TV.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have to wait 6 months now just to find out who died, to me, is mishandling that iconic moment in the comic about as poorly as they've ever covered any. And I'm not even one, like, how many times have you heard me while we talk about Walking Dead a lot.
Yeah.
We've both been friends for 5 or 6 years now. Basically friends as long as the show has been going on, talking about it constantly. How many times have you heard me compare the comic to the show directly in a negative, bitchy fanboy way?
Not very.
This was a colossal fuck up.
It bothered you a hell of a lot more than it did me. I'm assuming because of the comics, because it was about par for what I expected by the time we got there, and because I mean it became gimmick after gimmick and cliche after cliche, and
this should have been maybe the defining moment of the show. And they turned it into another gimmick after a series of 20 gimmicks in just the season alone.
The fact that I couldn't do anything or read anything with my eyes open and avoid the major Walking Dead cliffhanger, that probably also numbed me to it. Because when we got there and I saw, and as I'm fast forwarding commercials, how much time is left in the episode, and I see what they're doing with Jeffrey Dean Morgan as he's pacing back and forth in front of people with Lucille, and I was like, okay, well, here comes the cliffhanger. You know, I mean, it didn't piss me off the way it did, but it did disappoint me.
The fact that this moment led to disappointment and outrage amongst so many people is just it's devastating
on a show that
to me.
Generally everybody that watches it loves, because how many shows do you hear that most of the fans just have nothing but love for? Because there's a lot of shows that while fans love it, they have their issues with it.
What's crazy is The Walking Dead is one of those shows to where if you go on to Twitter, and let's say you're not you or me, but you're someone with a media presence with tons and tons of followers,
with a Twitter presence at all.
If you're someone who has a shit ton of followers and you go on and you talk shit about The Walking Dead, you get attacked.
Yeah.
And all the same people who did the attacking of the negative reviewers are going after the makers of the show.
Yeah.
The fact that was a result of the most iconic moment from the comic is just devastating, and it depresses me to the point to where it's I can't even put it into words how frustrating it is, because that last 10 minutes was knocked out of the park.
That was the best 10 minutes of the show outside of the first 3 episodes.
Just Jeffrey Dean Morgan crushed it. And we even talked about Andrew Lincoln was brilliant without ever saying a word.
Yeah.
Him lying on his knees and him looking around and just the...
Because he sees there's no way out.
There's no way out. And he has been so cocky outwardly to everyone about we can do anything if we do it together. And his cockiness got one of his family members killed.
Yeah.
And that should have been the takeaway. This whole 6-month gap between this and the beginning of next season should have been it should have been traumatic, losing one, and I think it is going to be. We'll get into that in a second of who we think it is. The takeaway shouldn't have been a gimmick on who died. It should have been, we lost that person, it was a tragedy, and it should have been all about the dynamic between moving forward Negan and Rick.
Yes.
Not a gimmick on who fucking died. Because now we have 6 months of build-up. By the time it comes around, it can't live up to what your expectations are.
Yeah.
And it goes against all storytelling oomph of building that sense of dread and tension. Because, like, you do such a brilliant job of building tension, that 10-minute dialogue, and to end it like that.
Yeah.
Like, you were so close to making it genius.
And the most sad thing about it, like you said, is it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan, man. Like, I do not get enough of him in my life.
Yeah.
And
brilliant.
He was fantastic in that role for that 10 minutes, and then
the takeaway is who died.
The takeaway is you died in GoldenEye and you just have blood running down the stream.
The takeaway is who died instead of that genius performance by Andrew Lincoln and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. That should have been the main takeaway. And then to have Scott Gimple, the showrunner, which, first of all, if you didn't know this, AMC the day after had to call a conference call between the showrunner and the media because this created the biggest shitstorm on TV outside of the Sopranos finale.
Really?
It has been catastrophic. What's crazy, I actually went back and researched on IMDb, you know they have the ratings of the episodes?
Yes.
The most, or the worst rating of any episode of The Walking Dead on IMDb was a 7.4.
Really? And this one's a 5.8, I think
5.6 was the last time I looked at it.
That was close.
That's bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
From a fan base that goes after anyone who says anything negative to be going after the showrunners so bad.
Has Walking Dead ever had anything below a 6? Or a 6.5?
What do you mean? Like
on any episode ever?
The lowest episode ever was 7.4.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's a finale.
And Scott Gimple didn't even own it, that he was playing a cliffhanger for the sake of playing a cliffhanger. He said that right there, Rick feeling guilty about getting someone killed was the end of the story. Not knowing who died isn't the end of a fucking story. The end of think about, I'm going to hypothetically play to you what should have been, in my opinion, the ending.
Okay.
You see who dies. Doesn't matter who dies, because let's say it's any of the 4 people who've been there since season 1. Like, any of the major characters outside of Rick, because it's not going to be Rick.
It's not going to be Daryl either.
Any of the major characters dies. It doesn't matter. They're just a placeholder of one of the main OG characters. They're beaten to death, and you just go around and you see everyone crying, and everyone's freaking out, and you play those same amazing sound effects they had going through the credits, and you just see Jeffrey Dean Morgan being charismatic, having a good time murdering this character, and then he stops, and then the last thing you see is Andrew Lincoln's reaction to, oh my god, my cockiness got one of my family members dead. Credits.
Yeah.
How much better that would have been.
Yeah.
They were so close, and they literally fucked it up in the last minute. It's so heart-crushing. Because what this should have been, and I'm not going into spoilers, this should have been that moment in Breaking Bad that that I'm talking about, when they kill off that character it was like the second to last season, I think.
Yeah.
And it should have been what happened to that character in the last Game of Thrones episode. It should have created that sense of dread. And what's funny is when we came back, I know you watched after the fact, but with Game of Thrones, how much more excited you are for Game of Thrones coming back than you are
I'm always excited for Game of Thrones to come back.
Let's backtrack. Let's not compare it from show to show. I'll go back to just within The Walking Dead.
Okay.
This is going to be a major character that Negan kills. I was more emotionally impacted by the death of Noah in the revolving door. Like, that was like, holy shit. Like, that was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck just happened?
I didn't give a shit about that character until
Me
the
either.
revolving door.
And then you're just like, oh my god, it was like you're watching your brother die.
And we go from shit like that to yeah. I don't know. This
You have no emotional response towards any character in the show. Your emotional response is towards the showrunner and the director, and that's fucking catastrophe.
What makes it even worse, just talking this episode only, is I drove around in this stupid RV for that.
You got teased about Negan the whole season.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Scott Gimple. Suck my balls. In the words of Eric Cartman.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Scott Gimple. That is the most pissed off I have been at a TV show in the last like 10 years outside of the Dexter finale.
Do you think he'll go into spite mode, or do you think he will go into damage control mode in the next season?
You wanna know what's funny? Is I actually have a theory about how season 7 opens.
Oh, yeah?
Because who we're talking about. How they're going to reveal who he killed, I can almost guarantee you. And he might change this now because they have a little bit of time. I think we start out the episode, and the way they reveal who Negan killed is by blue ballsing you and revealing one at a time who is alive.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think you know who died until the last
end of the episode.
The last like 5 minutes of the episode reverts back to Negan, to showing Negan kill the person. Because this is what happened after we thought Glenn died. Morgan origin for 90 minutes.
Right.
This is that guy. And people are going to lose their fucking minds if that's the case. Because if we don't go back... First of all, it's bullshit we have to wait, period.
Yeah.
But if we go back and he does that again... If it wasn't Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I would quit the show.
Yeah, dude, it's... I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Other than, at least I'm getting Jeffrey Dean Morgan somewhere, I guess.
If Jeffrey Dean Morgan wasn't Negan, this would have been the last moment I'd watch the show. I would have quit because I've been so pissed off at this. Because this... It's so... You went out of your way to fuck yourself over.
Yeah.
You really did. He can bullshit all he wants about talking character arcs. There is no way you can defend this cliffhanger as a storytelling tool. It is poor storytelling.
Another thing this season that I've noticed is completely out of control, if you want to talk season as a whole for a moment.
Yeah, sure.
Is the individual character story arcs. Like, we used to have just a few here and there. Every single character has their own fucking
Even
story
the doctor
arc.
girl.
Yeah.
Had like for the first, I mean, it had a cool end of it. But for that first 30 minutes where it was basically her character story, I was like, shoot me now. This is painful.
But everybody has their own story arc now. And all it does is muddle and water down the overall story. Because now you have to spend too much time on individual characters. You know, what we used to do, if we wanted to do that, is have several characters grouped together having their own issues that they're working out together they keep coming back and forth to, instead of one or two characters at a time.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's been frustrating me, because it just totally detracts from the show overall. That was one thing I was down on it in the first half of the season, but at that point when we had talked about that, it hadn't happened enough that I knew I was down. There was something about it that was nagging me,
yeah.
But I didn't know what it was until we got to the second half, and I figured it out because every fucking episode, the main plot was the subplot in the second half.
Every time they tried to develop random 14-year-old girl, I don't even know her name.
Yeah,
it was with
Enid.
Carl. What the fuck are you doing? No one cares.
I'm just happy they finally locked her in the closet.
Like, what? Like I said earlier, every person under the age of 17 needs to be killed immediately.
Yeah. I can't stand Coral, and Enid
That's
drives
another
me
thing
nuts.
that pisses me. Like Carl in the comics, an awesome character.
He's forever Coral.
They have one opportunity in this upcoming season to redeem him a little bit because Carl has an amazing moment that I won't spoil. That's just totally awesome. That can redeem him a little bit. They'll probably fuck that up. Because if they fucked up the Negan intro, everything else is fucking just like... That was the one moment you had to get right. That was so easy to get right. Because here's the thing.
They almost nailed it.
And they knocked
No
it
pun
out.
intended.
They knocked it out of the fucking park up until the last 45 seconds with Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
I thought mine was bad when I said nailed it, because I know it's barbed wire, but that with nails. But when you use baseball terms,
yeah.
like, Jesus.
Side note: Lucille looked amazing because Lucille is actually the name of it in the comic. So
right.
That's almost like a character, almost in and of itself. But the cliffhanger is purely a gimmick. There's no way you can defend it as a storytelling tool. And here's the thing, like, you don't need it, because when did Breaking Bad ever do an end-of-season gimmick that...
When did Breaking Bad really do a gimmick?
Period. A death, in and of itself, is a cliffhanger. There was no gimmick with that ending of the last Game of Thrones episode we have seen.
Yeah.
There was no gimmick. There was
no fucking around with
there was no gimmick. And what the fuck?
Because you and I watched it, and our jaws were hitting the floor. That's what should have happened.
That's exactly what should have happened. And it was so easy. And, like, these shows just happened. A perfect way to do it has been shown. And then, like, did anyone attack the Game of Thrones guys for killing off a major character? No. Like, the focus on that is how it should be. You should be pissed off at a character in the show or characters, not the people behind the scenes.
I've got two thoughts. One of them is really quick. I really hope that the outcry that is happening is not something that they wanted or find amusing. Because remember the controversy with Game of Thrones with the rape scene?
Yes.
That was something that when everybody was pissed off about that, everyone was like, yes, we managed to piss off everybody. Like, HBO was pleased with it. The Game of Thrones writers was pleased with the response to that, because that, to them, that meant they were trying to instill an emotional response, and they did it. Because everyone, like, it disturbed everyone on such a level. And... you know, like I said, HBO, the writers, the producers, like, we fucking nailed it when everyone got pissed off. I really hope that everyone is pissed. I really hope that it's not that everyone is pissed off right now and they're like, yes, we nailed it. Because
the thing is, like I was saying earlier,
this is not the same thing. This is apples and oranges.
There is no defensible reason other than gimmick or a ratings ploy that you can use as an argument for why this is not good storytelling. There's no way you can defend it.
Well, that was the second thought I wanted to get to. If you think back on this season, it was all of the oldest, most predictable tricks in the book. Every character death, every tease, everything. So...
there wasn't any cool gore effects either, now that I think about it.
There really wasn't, except for the dude that fell on top of Glenn getting ripped apart. They had some pretty cool visual effects on that. But, okay, so the classic example is an unimportant character suddenly becoming important because they die. So, the doctor girl that we talked about, since we're talking spoilers here anyway... she was barely a side character most of the time. And
let's send our only doctor out in the field. Because, God, we need everyone who's awesome and worthwhile out in the field for no fucking reason, but that's a side.
So, all of a sudden, she becomes the focus of her own episode.
For no reason.
Get an arrow to the back of the head. Like, I had a feeling it was coming. I knew there was a major character death, so that helped me. I also knew it was a shocking death. I will give them props for... I was still shocked knowing all of that when it happened. But...
the director saved bad screenwriting.
Yeah.
Just the way it was filmed.
Yeah, it was just like... that's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Every movie... old movie or any cliche you want to talk about is an unimportant character suddenly becoming important because they're about to die. And we have examples of all kinds of cliches and shit like that all throughout this season. Like, it was just... they're just riding the ratings wave. They didn't even try to write anything.
And what's just mind-boggling... this is the highest rated cable. Like, there's nothing to prove.
Yeah.
There's no reason to dick with your fans with a ratings ploy, because what this moment easily could have, and easily should have generated that emotional response you're talking about from the fan base. But what it should have been is an emotional reaction within the confines of the show.
Yes.
The only emotional...
Not at the show,
the
show.
emotional reaction everyone has is towards the director and the writer, not towards any person within the TV show.
Yeah.
And that is a giant debacle.
Yeah.
Because, to me, the absolute best TV shows make you forget you're watching a TV show. We're watching Game of Thrones with fucking White Walkers and dragons, and I get so sucked in. I'm like, oh, this is happening. This shit's happening.
Yeah, and you buy
You buy everything. You're invested.
Until you see that image of Khaleesi with a broom handle with a green sponge on the end.
But when you're watching the actual finished product, you're sucked in. You're like, dude, the Mother of Dragons is talking. Like,
yeah.
It's. I mean, when you think about it,
you shut your mouth when the Mother of Dragons is speaking.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Never took me out of the show.
Never
ever.
Once.
This scene,
and even if I could see something coming a mile away, I was still shocked when it happened.
In The Walking Dead, they go out of their way to pull you out of the world and make you remember you're watching a TV show.
Yeah.
Because it's gimmick after Blue Ball's death, quote unquote, is he dead? After...
And I don't know what happened, because in the season before, we might have had some of this, but it wasn't like this. We crossed a line all of a sudden in this season.
How exciting! Okay, let's compare the ending of season 5 to the ending of season 6.
Okay.
The ending of season 5 was that I'm pretty sure it was Rick going up and just 9mm fuck her in the face in Alexandria, right? That was the last thing you see.
I believe so.
Because Morgan. That was the last kind of twist. Was Morgan walks up and he sees him do it, right? You see. Fucker, we don't even care about get killed, but because you see the person die, you see Rick do it, and you see an emotional reaction within the confines of the TV show. You're never pulled out of the moment. I have more of an emotional response to that than a major character getting killed.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about it, I'm just gonna finish my thought. That's fucking awful screenwriting, and to do it with a moment that comic readers have been looking forward to for 4 years. Oh, you gotta wait 6 more months just to find out. Suck my balls, Scott Gimple.
Because we're not gonna come back for the next season.
Because we're not gonna come back for the next season, and our ratings are already the best on the network television.
You don't need to pull shit like this when they're literally the budget for each episode is in the millions of dollars.
Their ratings are so good. Fear the Walking bullshit got a second fucking season. Drop the mic. And while we're talking about it, before we end up, let's just talk about who do you think is killed?
I'm thinking Abraham, but it's probably not, since he tried to volunteer. I think that would take too much power out of the moment for Negan.
I think
I think since we don't talk actual logic in the show with these writers, that it's probably Abraham.
The only two that are 100% eliminated are Carl and Rick because of a Negan line of dialogue. He basically says, and the way that if you watch it, Jeffrey Dean, because I watched the last couple minutes a couple times, Jeffrey Dean Morgan kind of does body language when he's talking about Rick and Carl about how, if anyone moves out of line, cut the kid's eye out and feed it to his father. If you kind of watch, the way I kind of interpreted it is Rick and Carl are to his right. Because he's kind of like, if anyone, kind of like body language is right a little bit.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but I think it's got to...
For sure Carl is. I think Rick's in the middle.
Yeah, Rick's dead center. I think it's got to be either Abraham, Michonne, or Daryl. I think it has to be one of those.
I don't think it's going to be Daryl or Michonne.
If they're feeling just absolute ballsy, it'll be Daryl.
Yeah.
Because he's such the fan favorite. There's fucking t-shirts of like, if Daryl dies, we riot. That's an actual t-shirt you can buy. If they're feeling really ballsy, but if they have time to change it, the outcry was so poor, I don't think they can afford... Like, if the result is you wait 6 months to find out everyone's favorite character... It's Daryl.
Yeah.
The buildings at AMC headquarters will be set on fire like it's fucking Escape from New York.
Yeah. Dude,
I don't think you... I think if it hadn't been a gimmick, I think it could have been Daryl, but I don't think they can afford to make it Daryl now.
We have had so many moments this season of Abraham soul searching, and we put so much focus on Abraham.
I think it's Abraham.
I think it's
75% Abraham, because if you even remember within the episode, he has a conversation about having a kid with Sasha. That's, if he had been killed 20 minutes later, it would have been par for the course.
Yeah. I think they're doing it again where he's not saying that he's an unimportant character, but they're taking a character that's not usually the focus and putting him in the spotlight. And just so you can get that emotional response from killing him.
He was one of the best characters throughout the season to me, was Abraham in this season.
He kind of bugged me in the previous season, but in this season he was done really well.
I thought all of his stuff was Eugene was gold.
Except the fire truck stuff. I love the fire truck stuff.
It cannot be anyone inconsequential. They might as well have not even had Eugene and Aaron there.
Yeah.
Because there's no fucking way. There's no emotional impact.
Or Sasha.
Because
we hated her last season.
What I would have done, actually, and it's fucking dark, but if you want to amplify what happened previously in the comic that they didn't end up adapting into the show, I don't want to go into specifics, I don't want to spoil stuff, because there's some shit in the comic that will fucking blow your mind, even being a TV show watcher of it. Because some of the moments in the comic are, if you think some of the stuff in the show is dark, it's like amped up to the nth degree. If they had Negan's entrance end with him killing Maggie and finding out right after he killed her she was pregnant and not giving a fuck, that would have been Game of Thrones level introducing a character.
Yeah.
It would have been dark and fucked up in the worst of ways, but that would have been a just ingenious way to establish that Negan don't give no fucks.
Yeah. That also would have pushed Glenn into Crazy Rick mode.
You have great character development with Glenn after that. You have why I think a good twist as far as throwing everyone for a loop, because she's such a focal point in the comic. I think killing Michonne would have been a good fuck with everyone moment. As far as killing someone you would think would be pretty safe.
Yeah.
But they just did the storyline of Rick losing his the girl.
Yeah. It's too close.
It's too close in proximity. So yeah, if they're feeling really ballsy, I think it might have been Daryl if they had resolved this within this episode. 75-80% it's Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be sad, but I don't think that's a big enough death to justify waiting 6 months.
No.
And at that point, fuck you anyway. Because I've waited 6 months to find out you do such a brilliant job building that tension to just fuck everyone over. It's just, I'm beside myself. I watched this Sunday, it's Wednesday night, I'm still irritated by this. And what's telling is the fact that it was so par for the course with their usual run-of-the-mill bullshit. You were totally, you were disappointed, and you were expecting something dumb. That shows how much the show has gone off the rails.
When you're giving me an hour-and-a-half finale after your premiere was 3 episodes being the best zombie movie you've ever seen,
and Negan tease after Negan tease after
Negan tease and Negan tease, and then you get to the finale and it's a road trip and no one knows how to get where they're going. This needs to be, that episode needs to be something that someone on the internet posts to YouTube with wacky music and them just constantly getting lost. Yeah. Benny Hill music, them constantly getting lost. Just make it into the cheesiest of comedy movie trailers is what it deserves to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've basically said all there is to say about this piece of shit season finale. And it makes me sad. Yeah. Because you know how much I love that comic.
That finale was Arrow level.
Your level of disappointment and my level of frustration should not have been a result of that iconic moment.
Yeah.
It was a slap in the face to viewers of the TV show who had only been having a few months worth of 8 episodes Negan teasing, and then for the comic fans, your hardcore fans of that long of a period of waiting to make them wait more for just the sake of being a dick is inexcusable.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a wrap up to it. Did you have any other thoughts you wanted to add?
I was going to say, just all that being said, we focused on a lot of the negatives. There was some good stuff in the season. It's just it was unfortunately overshadowed by a lot of what was
gimmick
wrong.
after fucking gimmick
Yeah.
after fucking gimmick. But yeah, if you'd like to check us out more, we have all of our content on the YouTube channel. Just like and subscribe, you get all of our Let's Plays, everything. Social media links for Facebook and Twitter are below in the description if you'd like to check us out there. And most importantly, if you know anyone else, friends or family-wise, that might also like us, we'd appreciate the share. I am Jeff.
I'm Ron.
And suck my balls, Scott Gimple. Suck my balls.